The ravens came at dawn, black specks against a bruised lilac sky, their wings beating the warning into castle black long before their claws scraped the rookery stone. By the time the first bird fluttered through the narrow slit converted into a landing perch, Jon Snow was already awake, his breath misting in the chill of the corridor outside Maester Aemon's chamber. He had not slept. Sleep required a calm of mind he could no longer muster. Word had arrived the night before of his father's arrest. Treason, Ser Alliser Thorne had spat, as though the taste of the word delighted him. Jon had forced himself to wait for daylight before seeking out the maester, but the silence between the tolling of midnight and the first wash of pale color across the eastern horizon had been a torment. Inside, Maester Aemon's chamber smelled of parchment and smoke and something medicinal, a bitter root the old man kept boiling for his cough. Jon slipped through the doorway, boots soft on the flagstones. Aemon sat beneath a bearskin, his blind eyes closed, though Jon knew the maester seldom truly slept. The raven on the maester's shoulder quirked, its beak tilting as if it marked Jon's approach. "A cold wind," Aemon murmured without opening his eyes, "and a colder fate riding upon it." Jon swallowed. Another raven just arrived. I heard the wings." Aemon eased upright, gnarled fingers seeking his cane. "Bring me the message, Lord Snow." The honorific scraped at Jon's ears, for it was meant as a jest by the brothers, their bastard of Winterfell made lord of the latrines. Yet in Aemon's mouth it held neither mockery nor warmth. It was simply a label, like oak affixed to a doorbeam. Jon fetched the small roll of parchment, its black wax hammered with the crowned stag of King Robert still half melted, as though the seal itself bled. He broke it open, eyes racing across the cramped script. "Lord Eddard Stark, Hand of the King, is confined to the dungeons beneath the Red Keep pending judgment." The words blurred. He felt the stones tilt beneath his feet. Aemon's voice, rasped by age yet threaded with mithril calm, cut through his panic. "Read it aloud." Jon forced air into his lungs and obeyed. The letter recounted Ned Stark's arrest and the charges: conspiracy with the late Lord Renly Baratheon, fomenting dissent against the new king, Joffrey of houses Baratheon and Lannister. The small council had condemned the treachery and thanked the king for his swift justice. No mention of trial, no hint of mercy. "That is all," Jon finished, fingers trembling as he lowered the parchment. "They say father confessed to treason." A lie he knew, but the words tasted of ash nonetheless. "Men will confess to many falsehoods when a blade is pressed to the throat of those they love," Aemon said. "Or to their own." He reached, locating Jon's hand with surprising surety. "The Night's Watch can have no part in the quarrels of the realm." Jon jerked his hand away. "My father is not a quarrel. He is Ned Stark, honor itself. They've put him in chains like a criminal, and you swore an oath to rise above such chains of blood and grievance." The blind man inclined his head, white film hiding whatever sight might once have lived there. "Do you remember the words, Jon Snow?" "I am the sword in the darkness," Jon quoted, yet the words rang hollow. Darkness threatened to swallow him, but he no longer wished to be its sword. He wished to be in Winterfell at Robb's side, drawing true steel. The door banged open. Samwell Tarly stumbled in, cheeks flushed, a thin sheet of parchment crumpled in his fist. "Jon," he gasped. "Another raven, from Winterfell this time." Jon snatched it, Catelyn Stark's handwriting cut across the page in lines gone jagged with haste. "Robb rides south to call our banners. Ruin has begun. You must remain at your duty, Jon. Your father would insist. Trust in the old gods. Trust in the pack." The wolf wax stamp was cracked and smeared. He stared until shapes blurred again, but this time with anger. "You can't leave," Sam whispered, as if reading Jon's intent. "Not your watch. My father once told me a man can only serve honor. Oaths written by honorable men do not bind them to dishonorable ends." Jon crumpled both letters, parchment crackling like brittle ice. "If the watch will not permit me to ride, I will ride all the same." Aemon shifted, as though listening to the bones of his own past. "When the gods test us, they seldom allow for clean choices. Jon turned away. Outside, the yard lay frost-tinged, the ramparts crusted in hoarfrost. Brothers drilled with practiced swords. Hobbs' kitchen furred the air with bacon grease. Life at the wall ground forward, indifferent to a boy's crisis. Jon moved like a wraith past the forge where Donal Noy hammered a new link of chainmail. The smith straightened, one-armed, dark eyes knowing. Riding south, Snow? I must. You know your vows. I also know Ned Stark. Noy regarded him, then jerked his chin toward the king's tower. Lord Commander is looking for you. Jeor Mormont waited by a brazier glowing dull red, the heat throwing wavering shadows across the map table. You plan desertion. Jon lifted his chin. I plan justice. Justice is the realm of kings, not crows, Mormont said. Do you imagine you will reach King's Landing faster than rumor? Every road will be watched. Then I'll ride west through the mountain clans, cross the neck. Jon's voice rose with each obstacle. When I stand beside Robb Stark has summoned 20,000 swords, Mormont interrupted. Yet he is only one lord among many, and he rides for his father's freedom. What would your presence add? A sword? A bastard's name? Or would it brand him Oathbreaker for harboring a deserter? Jon's fists clenched. Every argument ringed with truth, yet truth felt hollow when his father froze in a dungeon cell. You have two choices, the old bear said. Remain or ride south, branded a crow-turned-traitor. If you take the second path, ride quickly, for my men will hunt you. Silence stretched, taut as a bowstring. Jon's vision narrowed upon the brazier's coals, dull hearts pulsing. In that glow, he saw a hooded executioner's sword descending upon his father's neck. He saw Robb's banner men falling upon Lannister lines. He saw Winterfell aflame. The future forked, each road shadowed. When he finally spoke, his voice came quiet. Would you truly hunt me? I cannot choose which vows to keep and which to discard, nor can I allow a precedent. But Jeor's glare softened. I would ride south myself if I believed a single sword could free Eddard Stark. Instead, I will trust to the boy who once called me friend. Jon turned away before his eyes betrayed him, stalking down the spiral to the yard. The wind clawed his cloak, making it snap like a banner. He remembered a different wind, warm with summer scents, blowing across the ridge above Winterfell where he and Robb had practiced archery. Robb's laughter, that bright, fearless sound, seemed now an echo from a world lost beyond an ocean of ice. That night Jon dreamed of direwolves howling beneath a blood-red moon. He awoke before dawn and found Ghost waiting at the foot of his cot, red eyes gleaming. The white wolf paced as if urging haste. Jon rose, the decision already formed. He left Castle Black 3 days later with a small party of recruits scheduled for assignment to the Shadow Tower, Thorne's plan, though Thorne remained ignorant of the true roster, as Jon had manipulated the duty logs. The ruse would grant him 2 days' ride west before word returned. He bid Sam a silent farewell beneath the Weeping Heart tree, cutting a lock of his dark hair and pressing it into Sam's shaking hands as token. They rode hard across the desolate Frostfang fringes. Ghost scouted ahead, a pale blur against the granite slopes. The recruits grumbled at the relentless pace, but Jon Snow spared no mercy. Mercy cost time, and time cost lives. At dusk on the second day, they reached a narrow defile choked with boulders. There Jon dismissed them, citing false orders to await resupply. He pressed a silver stag into the oldest boy's palm, enough to purchase ale and silence, and turned Ghost south toward the gorge that descended into the mountain clan territories. By moonrise, he was alone beneath a sky crowded with indifferent stars, each spark a frozen witness to vows broken and forged anew. The wall receded to a pale glimmer on the horizon. Beyond that, only ghostly valleys and rumors of giants. Jon had not ridden 2 leagues when the ambush came. Shapes detached from the rocks, rough voices barked, and torches sprang alive like fiery blossoms. Mountain clansmen, the stone crows or burned men, he could not tell. Ghosts snarled, but 20 bows found targets faster than fangs. Jon reined up, raising both hands. A man stepped forward, face painted with dark streaks, scalps dangling from his belt. "Crow with a wolf," he said in the guttural accent of the hill tribes. "What brings ye here?" "Word from the wall," Jon improvised. "The lions march north. The mountain clans will be slaughtered unless they join the north." The paint-faced warrior spat. "Stark never sent a bastard before." "I am no messenger," Jon answered, "but a son of Winterfell, and I pledge the North will honor any clan that rides against the lions." The clanman studied him a long moment. "The lions cut us when we cross their roads, but crows cut us when we cross yours. Lions would rather skin you than speak. I would parley." Jon dismounted slowly, placing a hand atop Ghost's neck. "Take me to your chieftain. If my words ring false, slit my throat and feed your fires." After a grim pause, the man shrugged. Spears lowered. They bound his hands but left Ghost unchained, a sign of half-trust or fear. Jon walked among them through twisting goat paths until dawn painted the peaks with rose gold. The clan encampment clung to a shelf of trickling waterfalls. Smoke curled from high tents. Children with daggers watched him pass. He knelt before an old woman whose hair was woven with copper beads. Her blind left eye stared milky as an opal. The right gleamed sharp as a flint shard. "I am Mother Stone," she said, "and you smell of crow blood, wolf child." Jon recounted the tale. Lannister hosts mustering at the Twins, Bolton and Glover banners gathering at Moat Cailin, Robb Stark marching to free his father. He spoke of Ned's honor, the North's wrath, the chance to strike a hated foe. He offered safe passage through the Neck and raiding rights from the Green Fork to the Weeping Water. He pledged Winterfell steel for Mountain Stone. Mother Stone listened, motionless. At length she raised a knotted finger. "Why should we trust a boy who breaks oath before our eyes?" Jon swallowed. "Because I have chosen a higher oath, to family and to freedom. The Watch forbade me family. The realm forbids me freedom. Both deny honor if they deny justice." A murmur rippled through the gathered clansmen. The old woman leaned close enough Jon could smell the tang of pine pitch in her braids. "Will the wolf crown the crow in return?" Jon frowned. "Crown of the North," she clarified, tapping her temple. "Free men bow to no kneeling boy." "I seek no crown," he said. "Only justice." Mother Stone smiled, a fissure in weathered granite. "Then we march with you, not for justice, but for sport and silver." So the pact was made. 200 mountain warriors armed with curved knives and stolen mail gathered at dawn. They painted their faces with red clay. Jon refused the war paint, but allowed them to smear Ghost's ears crimson. Theirs was a world of symbols, and Ghost would be their omen. They skirted the Green Fork's upper tributaries, raiding Lannister outriders when chance allowed. Jon fought beside the stone crows beneath a waterfall's roar, his sword Longclaw flashing pale lightning. He learned the rhythm of clan war. Swift strikes, no prisoners, vanish before banners unfurled. Word spread like sparks in dry grass. A white wolf leads the clans in Stark's name. By the time they reached the next marshy causeway, they had doubled in number, burned men and black ears joining the host. At Moat Cailin, Jon found the banners of the North rippling above the crumbling towers. Robb Stark, mail-clad, met him in the shadow of the stone causeway, gray wind at his heel. The dire wolves regarded each other, Ghost silent, gray wind growling low. Robb's eyes widened as he took in the mountain host, and Jon's night's watch black turned travel-stained gray. "You've grown a horde," Robb said, voice tight with months of command, "and cast aside your vows." "I kept the vow that matters," Jon said, "the one to our father." Robb's anger flickered like a candle guttering bright, then smothered by wind. He clasped Jon's forearm. "I prayed you would stay at the wall, but the gods deliver what they will." They embraced, the armor between them cold yet the bond fierce. Across the marsh, northern footlines cheered at sight of their young wolf greeting his half-brother. Yet whispers coursed too. Deserter, oathbreaker, black wolf. That night, in the Tower of Mists, Robb convened his war council. Great Jon Umber booming, Roose Bolton silent as snow, Galbart Glover, Lady Meage Mormont, and, surprised, Theon Greyjoy lounging near the hearth. Jon stood at Robb's right, his mountain chiefs behind, faces flickering red gold in torchlight. Winterfell's levies near 20,000. Robb began, voice steady despite the weight of names carved on casualty lists. The southern clans bring 2,000 more. With the mountain host, we match the lions, if Walder Frey grants passage. Lord Frey will bend, Great Jon growled. Or we'll bend his neck. Theon laughed. Aye, but the twins are stone. Hard to bend them. Roose's pale eyes slid to Jon. And what of the deserter wolf? The Night's Watch may pursue. The king may call him Oathbreaker.
Jon met Bolton's gaze unflinching.
Let the king call me what he will. I answer only to the north. Great Jon slammed a fist. Well said. A Stark after my own heart, bastard or no. Robb raised a hand for calm. I summoned our banners to free my father. Yet each raven from the south reeks of lion pride. Joffrey says he will not trade treason for traitors. Cersei claims father plotted to usurp. The crown denies us justice. You mean the crown of Baratheon, Theon said. Or Lannister, if we strip the paint. Meage Mormont spit into the fire. No whelp on a gilded chair decides the fate of the North. Robb's jaw tightened. What do you counsel? Bolton's voice whispered like a razor on silk. Independence. Silence fell. Only the crackle of burning pine dared speak. Great Jon chuckled. Declare ourselves free of the Iron Throne? Why not crown a wolf king and piss on the wall while we're at it? But Lady Mormont answered, the Iron Throne offers us only taxes and southern wars. A north ruled from Winterfell by northerners would bleed for its own. Jon's pulse hammered. The thought of severing ties to the realm, to the oaths Ned Stark once served, seemed heresy. Yet Ned lay in chains. Oaths had failed him. Robb turned to Jon. Bastard brother, what say you? You risked all to stand here. Jon considered the faces around the map table, each scar a ledger of hardship the South scarcely imagined. Our forebears knelt to Aegon the Conqueror 3 centuries past, when dragons shadowed the sky. There are no dragons now, only debt and scorn. If the crown denies us justice, why should we honor its yoke? Great Jon roared approval. Others nodded, murmuring. Only Bolton remained unreadable, the candlelight painting hollows beneath his eyes. Then let the North be free, Robb said quietly, almost to himself. He glanced at the war helm upon the table, the dire wolf crest gleaming. Yet a realm requires a king. Eyes shifted between the brothers. Theon grinned wolfish. Great Jon knelt abruptly, fist against breast. I have no king but the king in the north, whose name is Stark. Meage Mormont followed, then Glover. The hall swelled with oath cries until even the mountain chiefs bent knee, muttering in thick accents. Jon alone remained standing. Robb turned. Brother. Jon's throat constricted. Part of him wished to kneel to pledge fealty, yet he bore the stain of broken vows. He had forfeited the privilege of kneeling freely. I cannot bend the knee, he said hoarsely. I am no lord, no trueborn son, but I will fight beside you till my heart stops. Robb's smile was soft. That will suffice. The king in the north was born of desperation and the bitter truth of chains. As horns echoed across the marsh, Jon felt the world tilt upon a fulcrum. The dawn after the Kingsmoot, for so the bards would name that night, brought a ragged line of mounted men from the south, Frey colors snapping. Walder Frey's son, Ser Stevrin, presented terms. Safe passage if Robb wed one of Frey's daughters. Robb deferred, claiming needful thought. In truth, he sought his mother's counsel, for Catelyn Stark rode to Moat Cailin that same day, having slipped through the twins in disguise. Jon greeted her at the ramparts, heart pounding. Lady Stark's face tightened, a dozen emotions flickering, grief, relief, censure, before she embraced him. My lady, he murmured. You always called me that, she said, voice thick. Even now, when you bring half the mountain to our cause. Mother, the word slipped before he could catch it. She froze, and he felt a knife of regret. But then her hands cupped his face, and she kissed his brow. "When Ned returns," she whispered, "we will debate titles. Until then, you are son enough." She heard the tale of Robb's coronation, the Mountain Alliance, the vow for independence. Her silence afterward weighed heavier than condemnation. At last she said, "Ned would have counseled caution, yet even he might see no path but war." "The Lannisters started that war," Jon said. "They did," she agreed. "But wars seldom end where they begin." 3 nights later Robb accepted Frey Passage, with the promise to return and honor the marriage bargain after the war. Jon led the vanguard across the Twins. His mountain warriors danced across ramparts, hurling insults at Frey guards. The guards answered with glares. Jon wondered what grudges might sprout from those stares like weeds. South of the Green Fork, scouts reported Lannister outriders near the stony September. Robb split his host. Greatjon and Karstark to take Ser Jaime at Riverrun, Robb to gallop east to confront Ser Stafford's reinforcements. Jon rode with the king, serving as liaison to the clans, a bastard ambassador between worlds. Battle greeted them at dawn's gray edge outside Ashford. The mountain clans crashed upon Lannister spear lines like a storm upon cliffs, snarling oaths in the old tongue. Jon fought beside the stone crow's banner, Longclaw biting splinters of crimson from gilded mail. He saw Robb carve through a knot of knights, gray wind tearing at destriers. Spears shattered, arrows hissed, war horns wailed. The North held the field by mid-morning, but the price was steep, hundreds dead, including the clan chieftain Wavecrest, who died laughing beneath a hedge of pikes. Jon knelt beside her cooling body, her copper-beaded hair spread like molten metal. She clasped his wrist with fading strength. "Wolf child," she croaked, "remember our bargain." "I will." She pressed a blood-smeared token into his palm, a smooth river stone carved with a spiral. Her hand slipped away. That night, the victorious host feasted amidst corpse fires. Songs rose to the new king, cups clashed, yet Jon found little mirth. Each victory etched deeper the chasm separating him from vows once sworn. At the edge of camp, he encountered Roose Bolton cleaning a thin blade with meticulous care. Blood dripped into a silver bowl. "Steel's edge rusts if not tended," Bolton murmured. Jon nodded, uneasy. "Do you ever regret desertion?" Bolton asked, drying the knife with a cloth. Jon stiffened. "I did not desert honor."
"Honor."
Bolton's pale lips curved. "An interesting cloak. War will test its weave." Before Jon could reply, a scout galloped in, cloak scorched, stammering of wildfire along the Blackwater. King's Landing stirred with rumors. A trial set for Lord Stark, verdict already penned by Queen Cersei's quill. Robb convened council by torchlight. "We march full force on King's Landing," he declared. "The city walls cannot be stormed with speed," Galbart Glover cautioned. "And wildfire burns hotter than any hearth." "Then we draw Joffrey out," Theon suggested. "Take Harrenhal, threaten the Gold Road." Roose proposed a darker path. "Send Jon and the mountain clans to raid the King's Road, spreading fear, forcing the crown to divert forces." Jon's jaw tightened. The suggestion placed him again at the vanguard of peril, yet it proved sound. Robb agreed. Dawn saw Jon riding with a strike force of 2,000. Clansmen, northern outriders, and a handful of Karstark lances. They devastated supply convoys, freed prisoners, and spread word of northern independence. Small folk cheered them, or hid fear is sibling to doubt and hope alike. At Hollow Hill, they found a band of Baratheon loyalists wearing the crown stag on torn surcoats. Their leader, a knight named Sarsfield, hailed Jon under truce. "I rode with Lord Renly," he said. "Now the bastard Joffrey sits the throne, and the rightful heir Stannis readies fleet and sword in Dragonstone. If the North will ally with House Baratheon, we might break the lion's grip." Jon sent word to Robb. The reply came swift. "Hold stance. Observe." The young wolf weighed alliances like a smith testing chain links. Yet news raced faster than ravens. Stannis had declared Joffrey illegitimate, styled himself king of Westeros. 3 kings now warred. The realm cracked wider. Meanwhile, whispers grew that Eddard Stark would face execution within a fortnight. When the Raven came, white wings heavy with snow despite autumn, Jon trembled as he broke the seal. The parchment bore one sentence in unfamiliar hand. The wolf kneels on the morrow. Jon crushed the message. He felt the world constrict, a vice upon his chest. Yet clarity emerged in that pressure. If tomorrow Ned Stark knelt before a butcher's boy king, the gesture would serve nothing but the vanity of lion pride. Honor would demand Robb strike. Independence would ignite to flame. But Jon would not watch from afar. He called the clans around a midnight campfire. "We ride for King's Landing," he announced. "Not to siege, but to shatter a spectacle." Stone Crow war drums answered, low, ominous. The Northmen exchanged uneasy glances, but the dire wolves howled beyond the treeline as if the old gods sanctioned madness. They rode light, through secret tracks offered by smugglers bribed in silver. 500 warriors, ghost-like, slipped past Lannister patrols. Jon rehearsed the plan: infiltrate via the river gate at dawn among fishmongers, raise a riot at the September where the execution would occur, and snatch Lord Stark from the scaffold amid the chaos. It was impossible, yet impossibility held no weight against necessity. 2 nights before the morrow, Jon's scouts returned with grim tidings. The execution had been advanced. Joffrey would take Lord Stark's head at first light. Panic stabbed, but Jon kept his voice steel. "We ride through the night." They reached the city as violet shadows faded from the sky. Smog and salt stung their throats. Jon led a core group through a storm sewer discovered by a clan tracker. They emerged in a wine cellar near the Street of Sisters, clothed in stolen cloaks. The bells tolled. Crowds surged toward the Great September of Baelor. Jon moved with them, one shadow among thousands. Atop the steps, Joffrey perched upon his makeshift throne, sun glinting off golden armor. Cersei Lannister stood behind, emerald eyes narrowed. Eddard Stark, gaunt but unbroken, knelt before the king. His gray beard trembled in the wind. The High Septon read charges. The mob jeered. Jon's breath rasped. His father raised his head, pale eyes sweeping the throng, searching, perhaps, for faces he loved. Their gazes met for a heartbeat. Jon felt the world hush.
Ned Stark smiled.
The executioner's sword shimmered. Jon surged forward. Ghost leapt from shadow, ivory fury incarnate. Mountain tribesmen erupted from alleys, axes flashing. Northmen loosed arrows into the Lannister guard. The Sept steps devolved into riot. Jon reached the dais as the sword descended. He flung himself full into its arc. Steel met steel. Longclaw raised, parrying the killing stroke an instant before it severed flesh. Shockwaves numbed his arm. He shoved, twisting, knocking the executioner sideways. Lannister spears thrust. Clansmen crashed into them.
Ned staggered upright.
Chains rattled. Jon slashed them free. "Can you run?" he gasped. Ned's eyes gleamed with tears. "I can try." They fled down the steps into swirling chaos. Ghost harried pursuers. The mob split. Shouts of "King in the North!" battled "Traitor." Jon carved a path toward the sewer entrance, father stumbling beside him. Behind, Joffrey shrieked commands. Gold cloaks formed lines. Flames licked pavilion tents as wildfire casks overturned. The city convulsed. Jon and Ned dove into the sewer, water stinking of rot. They waded through darkness until moonlight painted a sluice gate. When they emerged beyond the walls, horses waited, shadow stallions restless.
Ned collapsed, King ragged.
They rode through the night, father behind son, ghost ahead guiding. The city dwindled. Behind them, the bells tolled again, mourning this time, for the fragile peace of a kingdom already bleeding. When they reached Robb's encampment 3 weeks later, winter had clawed south, and the young wolf's host lay poised along the Blackwater Rush, ready to storm the city. Jon dismounted before his brother's pavilion, lifting his father from the saddle. Robb rushed forth, armor forgotten, silent tears carving tracks down dust-streaked cheeks. Catelyn followed, covering her mouth as she beheld her husband alive. That night, fires blazed across the northern camp, yet a hush reigned. Lords knelt before Ned Stark, newly freed. But Ned lifted a hand. "I am no king," he said. "The North has chosen my son. In my stead, I pledge sword and name to Robb Stark, king in the North." Cheers roared. Jon watched, heart swelling. Yet as the shouts rose, he felt the cold fingers of destiny alight on his shoulder. He had broken 2 oaths, birthed a realm, and stolen a father from death's maw. The song of the North would speak his name, as hero, deserter, or both. But for this moment, he allowed himself a single breath of peace beneath the vast, star-washed sky, where ghosts and gods alike paused to witness the forging of a new world. A world that had only begun its long, uncertain night. Night hung velvet black above the northern camp, pinpricked by cold stars like 1,000 watchful eyes. In the hush that followed raucous celebration, the war banners stirred only faintly, their crests and sigils half hidden in shadow. Direwolf, Bear, Merman, and the rough black son of Mother Stone's new-forged clan standard. Jon Snow stood at the edge of the torch circle, the warmth of its flames barely brushing his cheeks, and listened to the distant thud of hammers in the quartermaster's yard. The smiths worked through the dark to mend shields and rivet fresh rings to mail, preparing for the dawn they knew must come. Beyond the wagons, Ghost prowled between cook fires, white fur limned orange against flickering light. Every now and then the dire wolf lifted his muzzle and loosed a low rumble, catching scents the men would never taste. Jon felt the tremor echo in his chest, a restless pulse that matched his own unease. They had carved a miracle from the lion's jaws, yet even miracles bore teeth. Father was free, but half the realm howled for Stark blood, and the Night's Watch had already dispatched raven-winged condemnation. Jon pictured Lord Commander Mormont's rough script. Deserter, oathbreaker, sentenced to death should you ever cross the wall. He imagined the faces of Gren, PYP, even Sam, pale with conflict. The wall receded into memory like a snow-clad ghost, but its oath still whispered behind his ear, cold as frost on steel. Footfalls crunched the needles underfoot. Robb emerged from between the pines, his cloak dragging resin-scented branches. The king in the north looked older tonight, hair damp with sweat, cheeks hollowed by sleepless counsel, green eyes bright within rings of dark exhaustion. In his hand he carried 2 cups. Mulled wine, he offered, the steam wreathed crimson around the rim. The cooks found cinnamon among Riverrun stores. I can barely taste it through smoke, but Maester Luwin swears it's good for nerves. Jon accepted the cup. The wine bit hard at first sip, mellow heat blooming down his throat. "We'll need more than spice to steady men tomorrow," he said. "Tomorrow?" Robb asked, tipping his gaze toward tents where his lords had retired. "Or dawn after dawn after. Tywin Lannister camps on the Trident with 40,000. Stannis sits behind stone walls at Dragonstone and sends ravens demanding fealty. Renly's banners drift like dandelion seeds across the reach. And Joffrey, 7 save us. Joffrey screams for our heads on every city gate. Is there still a tomorrow we can claim?" Jon watched a pair of sparks glide upward on the wind like golden fireflies before winking out. "There's always dawn until the sun chooses not to rise," he murmured. "Let's forge one more." Robb exhaled a breath that felt heavier than any armor. "Father says we cannot hold the capital if we take it. The city hungers already. Its people fear the wolf more than the lion now because fear is all they know. Storming walls might win a crown of broken stones." The king shook his head. "Father counseled we turn west instead, cut to the marrow of Lannister gold. Casterly Rock is the heart. Bleed the lion's heart. The paws go limp." "Roose Bolton counseled the same," Jon said, though he felt a chill naming that lord. "But Bolton would bleed more than the heart." "Perhaps." Robb drank, then grimaced. "Walder Frey received word of father's rescue. He now names our bargain broken, wants a second daughter wed in recompense. Mother nearly tore the raven in half." His chuckle was brittle. "I've written that I will choose whichever daughters he sets before me, whichever twins or triplets he can spare. 1 bride or 5, once the war is done. I expect he will savor that promise until his wine sours. Jon almost smiled, but the expression died quickly. And what of the watch? He asked. Robb flinched. I sent Galbart Glover north 2 days past. He'll reach Castle Black in a fortnight. Fastest horse, no banners, to plead our case. The old bear is stern but not heartless. He must uphold the oath, Jon whispered. I broke it, Robb. No parchment mends that. A brother's life mends it, Robb countered, slipping a hand to Jon's shoulder. You saved father. The realm may brand you traitor. The North names you shield and spear. If Mormont demands justice, he must come south to claim it. And you'll not stand alone. Jon wanted to believe. Heat from the cup seeped through his gloves, numbing his knuckles. There's talk, he said softly, that your lords expect me to kneel still. They think I refused because of bastard pride. Some bark about it, Robb admitted, but most understand. They saw your sword cross Joffrey's headsman. Father says kings should heed deeds above words. A faint grin crept. He also reminded me royals must heed mothers. At mention of Catelyn, Jon felt awkward gratitude. She'd watched him across the map table tonight, weighing him with guarded eyes. But when the council ended, she'd given a curt nod that felt like a stone door cracking open. Robb drained his cup. Listen, father means to ride home. Home. The word struck like a spear point of light in a windowless room. Winterfell, Robb said. He misses Bran, Arya, Rickon. He says his duty to the north lies there, to watch hearth and harvest, not thrones. He plans to leave at first thaw. Grey Wind will miss him sorely. And you? Jon asked. I must end what I began, Robb said. Tywin will not sit quiet while we hold his heirs hostage and his prestige in a wolf's jaws. Stannis may sail at any moment. Renly roves, and the Ironborn bark on every tide. If I ride home now, 10,000 graves will sprout behind me. Jon gazed at his brother's clenched jaw. I'll not leave your side. No, Robb said. I ask a different road. His hand tightened on Jon's arm. Ride with Father North. Guard him. Guard Winterfell. The wall may need eyes to warn us should Lannister coin find new friends among the clans or worse. And there's more. He hesitated. Father claims Bran has dreams, visions of ravens, of things not yet come. Maester Luwin treats them as fancy, but Father half believes. He says our blood calls to old magics in dark hours. If Bran truly sees, we must keep him safe. Jon's heart twisted, two halves pulling opposite directions. He had dreamed of steel and glory beside the king in the north, carving wolf tracks across the countryside. But Winterfell's name throbbed deeper, older. The Godswood, the crypts, a place where he had once belonged, if only in the quiet spaces between legitimate sons. You trust me with Father's life? I trust you with the North, Robb said. And if Winterfell stands, so does my crown. The torch sputtered then, resin crackling, and cast them in brief darkness. When light flared back, Jon found decision caught already upon his tongue. He clasped Robb's wrist in answer. I will ride at first light. Dawn bruised the horizon purple when Jon reached Ned Stark's tent. 2 guards parted the flap without question. Inside, the air smelled of cedar, steel oil, and bitter green poultices. Lord Stark sat at a trestle table, bare-armed despite chill, quill moving over parchment. Bandages peeked beneath the linen of his tunic. The weight of dungeons still clung as shadows beneath his eyes. Yet a quiet vigor glimmered there too, the glow of a flame rekindled after near suffocation. You were always up before birdsong. Ned's voice rasped warm as hearth embers. Come close. Ink fades quicker than memory, yet both can slip. Jon approached, bowing head unconsciously. Ned set aside the quill. Robb says you'll escort me north. If you'll have me, Jon answered. It should be I asking if Winterfell may have you. Ned studied his son. Those gray Stark eyes mirrored in each, though time had etched heavier lines in the elder. You broke one vow to keep a deeper one. Some will hammer you for it, some will hail you. But I... His throat tightened. I am proud. The word struck like a bell, pure and aching. Jon felt heat prick behind his eyes. Ned continued softer. I rode from Winterfell with a full heart and returned with wounds, to body, to honor. My pride cost me chains and near cost me head. Only courage, yours, saved me. I wasted years fearing you might stray, thinking your mother's shadow would pull you away from stark duty. But you have proven more stark than many who share my name. Jon's voice cracked. I feared you might regret that I came, because of the oath. Oaths have meaning, Ned said. But meaning serves men, not the reverse. I taught Robb that honor sits in the heart, not upon tongues. He reminds me now. Ned placed a hand atop Jon's. You will ride beside me, past the neck, past the barrows, home. And when snows melt and seeds sprout again, I will name you lord of something yet unshaped. Farmsteads along the White Knife perhaps, to hold in my stead while I mend Winterfell's walls. He smiled faintly. Even bastards need hearths when wars end. Jon could not speak for a moment. When he found breath, he managed only, thank you. A distant horn cut the quiet, one blast, then a chorus rising over the camp.
Ned, Frau Ned.
That is not reveille. Jon slipped to the tent flap. Across the fields, riders pounded up the causeway, their mounts lathered. A banner whipped wild behind them. A yellow field emblazoned with black stag and fiery red hart. Baratheon flavored by Lawler. He turned as Ned reached his side. Stannis, Jon said. The impromptu war council convened in Robb's command pavilion. Canvas rippling like sails before a storm. Lit braziers cast a wavering glow across the map table where pins stabbed in seas of parchment. Lord Edric Storm, bastard envoy of Stannis, stood panting at one end, a scroll clenched in mail-gloved fist. The true king offers terms, Edric announced, voice forged in Dragonstone gales. Bow to King Stannis, break oath with false Joffrey, and he will name Robb Stark Warden of the North as Aegon once named Torrhen. He pledges Ned Stark a seat upon the small council, grain shipments through Storm's End, and rights to fish the narrow sea unmolested for 10 years. The pavilion muttered. Catelyn's eyes narrowed, Glover stroked his beard, and Meage Mormont grinned like a she-bear sniffing honey. And in return? Robb asked. You ride south with your full host, Edric replied. Strike Tywin in the flank and open a corridor for Stormlander reinforcements to smash King's Landing. Dragonstone forges have turned night and day. King Stannis owns siege towers enough to shadow the gods. He will burn corruption root and stem. The North may stand aside, or stand proud, but stand it must. The North stands free, Great Jon barked. Edric bowed stiffly. Freedom is earned by steel, not parchment. We can fight each other and let the lion feast on our corpses, or we can hammer the lion together and divide crown rights after. Robb drummed fingers on the map edge. We shall answer within 2 days. The envoy left escorted, leaving tension thick as tar. Lords erupted in debate. Some favored alliance. Baratheon fire plus northern grit might break the realm and forge a new order. Others distrusted Melisandre's red priests rumored to cling to Stannis like leeches. Roose Bolton merely observed, eyes half-lidded. Jon kept silent until Robb glanced his way. Speak freely, the king invited. Stannis seeks allies, not equals, Jon said. He offers us Warden's chains in place of Joffrey's. Freedom won yesterday should not be pawned tomorrow. Yet if Stannis wins alone, he may march north next, Roose noted, voice like cold mist. Better to shape the leash than wear it unchosen. Catelyn's fingers kneaded skirt folds. My lords, only 2 moons ago King Stannis allowed my daughter's safe lodging in the capital to be denied. He raised no voice though he knew their plight. Does a man who would be father of a realm ignore children's cries? Robb's glance slipped to his father. Ned said nothing. His gaze drifted toward distant mountains, as though considering lines unseen. Let each voice speak, Robb commanded. But dawn after next we answer. Until then, ready the army, east or west, We ride soon. That night Jon walked the picket lines beside Grey Wind and Ghost, the direwolves gliding like mist between sentries. The moon waxed a pale sickle, scattering silver across breastplates. In every face Jon saw Questy. Ons. Where will the sword fall? Which king to follow? At the east ridge he found Arya, her small form crouched atop a wagon tongue. She had slipped through camp despite all eyes, water dancer quiet. Needle lay across her lap, point gleaming faint starlight. You should be asleep, he murmured. So should you. Arya shrugged thin shoulders. Sleeps for bored nights. I like shadows. They make even lords slow down and shut up. He chuckled. You'll be trouble for any man tries to wed you. Good, she said fiercely, then sobered. Father keeps holding his side. The maester says stitches need rest, but he won't sit. He walks the king's pavilion, stands by the smiths, reads letters. Mother scolds him. I think he's afraid still. Jon braced elbows on the wagon. Prison ghosts don't vanish the day doors open. Do yours? She asked. The watch, the oath you broke. Does that rattle chains in your head? He started. Leave it to Arya to slash past armor. He bowed his head. Yes. The word was quiet as falling ash. But sometimes chains snap, so you can use the links for something better. Arya poked Needle's point into the dirt between her boots. If the Black Crows come for you, they'll find Needle sharp too. He smiled, throat tight. If they come, I'll stand with honor still. Good. She hopped down and hugged him around the waist. Don't let them put you behind bars. I can't break you out like father. Not yet. He wrapped arms around the little wolf and breathed the simple comfort of family. Above them, the sickle moon inched toward zenith, carving time into slices too thin to grasp. 2 days later, banners furled under the chill wind as Robb gathered his lords atop a ridge overlooking the Blackwater Valley. Golden sunlight washed mud-brown fields, glimmering on distant river bends like shards of broken glass. Tywin's host was rumored 30 leagues south, encamped behind stakes, waiting to bleed anything that dared cross. Robb addressed his council in low, steady tones. I have weighed Stannis' offer and the tempers of my lords. The North bled for freedom, not for the right to crown another southern king. We wage one war at a time. Lannister first. Great Jon roared approval. Lady Mormont slammed her axe haft on a shield. Roose Bolton inclined his head like a serpent acknowledging prey. Robb raised a gloved hand, quelling cheer. The royal stag hunts alone. If his cause be righteous, the gods may grant him victory. If he falters, the North will not drown beside him. He turned to Jon. Ride with father tonight. Take 300 mounted clans and 200 archers, quiet as snowfall. You'll travel the King's Road until White Harbor, then home. Protect Winterfell. It is the spine of the wolf. Jon nodded, heart hammering. The thought of gods with leaves whispering overhead thrilled and chilled him both. We leave at dusk. Catelyn stepped close, pressing a wax-sealed parchment into Jon's gauntlet. For Maester Luwin, she whispered. News of Bran, of Rickon, and instructions should Greyjoy ears twitch at northern weakness. Jon tucked the letter beneath breastplate. I'll deliver. When the sun sank crimson, Jon mounted Storm, the rangy gray courser gifted by Mother Stone. Ned Stark rode beside on a bay gelding, posture stiff but proud. Ghost paced before the column, and Grey Wind loped alongside until the pickets ended, where he turned back with mournful howl. Torches flickered down the King's Road as the escort trotted south to the first ford, then veered east on a forgotten hunter's track that would skirt Tywin's scouts. Jon glanced over his shoulder. Campfires like scattered constellations behind the ridge. Robb's host a slumbering giant waiting to wake in violence. He felt the distance grow like a sinew pulled taut. Hours deep into night, they emerged onto a moor blanketed by low fog. Horse hooves sucked at marshy peat. Jon lifted a fist to slow tempo. Something pricked at his nape, a hush beyond natural quiet. Ghost halted, ears flat. Then the first crossbow bolt hissed from the mist. Shouts erupted. Figures in half-mail burst from knee-high fog, torches spitting sparks. Bolton men? No, men in brown cloaks marked by gold coin sigils. Bracken outriders, sworn to Riverrun but rumored to sell loyalty. Chaos cracked open. Jon drew Longclaw, the Valyrian steel singing. Ned barked commands. Archers loosed into shifting shapes. Clansmen met the rush with curved blades. A Bracken sergeant lunged at Jon, axe sweeping for his skull. Jon parried, riposte carving collarbone through leather. A second thrust came from behind. Ghost clamped jaws on the assailant's calf, wrenching him screaming down. Torches wheeled, lighting barriers of swirling fog. Ned rode to Jon's flank, sword aloft. Ambush, pull back to higher ground. His voice carried the old authority of Winterfell, and for a moment the line held, wolves and stone crows forming a ragged crescent. Yet the enemy pressed, numbers unseen in the murk. A horn blew thin, reedy. Not northern. Jon's stomach sank. A second flank appeared left. Riders bearing pink flayed man sigils of House Bolton. Flank us! Draw them north! A Bolton captain cried, eyes gleaming fever-bright, betrayal cut colder than steel.
Ned cursed beneath Brett.
To the ridge of pines. Go! They surged as one, arrows flying behind. Jon watched mountain warriors fall, cut from saddles by treachery. Fog scattered up the slope, unveiling a bald knoll crowned by 10 twisted pines. A last redoubt. They reached the crest as Ghost bounded ahead, fangs dripping. 20 riders remained when the knoll became fortress. Archers knelt under boughs, knocking with shaking fingers. Ned ordered a shield ring around the mounts. Jon paced the margin, blade ready, breath white plumes. Bolton men ascended first, shields interlocked. Jon met them, steel ringing. He saw familiar faces from council. Dreadfort swords who had cheered Robb's coronation. Now they lunged with murder in eyes. Why? Who had whispered coin or promises? Their ferocity spelled answer. Bolton hearts answered only secret urges. A spear pierced Jon's pauldron, graze burning. He hacked the haft, drove pommel across a helm. Blood sprayed. Clanswoman White Rill took an arrow in throat, gurgled. Ned fought beside Jon, each movement slower than once yet precise. Still the wolf swordmaster of old. Yet numbers swelled below, torches multiplying. Jon's mind raced. If they held the knoll until dawn, someone might ride for help. But the host lay leagues behind. They would be bones by sunrise. He swept gaze upward. Limbs of the 10 pines tangled like prayers against the starlight. Father, he called, parrying. Fire. Ned met his eyes, comprehension glinting. He raised a torch dropped by a foe, thrust it into resin-rich bark. The flame licked greedily. Jon mirrored him on second tree. Clansmen caught on, brandishing pitch-soaked cloth. Within breaths, the pines became pillars of living fire, embers spinning high. Smoke churned, a beacon to the night sky. Bolton riders hesitated below as sparks rained like burning snow. Under the canopy of flame, the defenders retreated inward, coughing but resolute. Trees crackled, boughs drooping molten sap. And then, with a groan like a dying giant, the first pine toppled downslope, branches blazing. It crashed through Bolton ranks, sending men and horses screaming. A second followed, sweeping left. Torches scattered. Fog ignited orange. Panic rippled. Jon seized the moment. Down the west face now. They burst through a gap in flames, hoofs pounding ash. Smoke cloaked their flight. Behind, forest fire roared, devouring heath. Jon didn't look back until they reached a rocky stream. The remnant, fewer than 20, galloped into shadowed ravine where no torches followed. Ghost loped at flank, smoke-blacked but unburned. They rained beneath overhang, lungs heaving. Ned's face slicked with soot, yet his eyes blazed. Jon scanned the survivors. Clansmen, archers, a pair of Karstark outriders, and Maester Patrek, fists tight on saddle strap. Half the escort gone, yet life clung. Ned drew Jon aside. Bolton betrayed us. Roose remains with Robb. Jon whispered. The ramification churned acid. If Bolton plots ran deep, Robb's camp might harbor knives in darkness. We must warn him, Ned said. You must ride north, Jon countered. Robb needs proof. I can slip back faster, no escort to hamper me. Ned's brows knit. You ride alone again. The desertion path repeats. Not desertion, Jon vowed. Duty. He gripped Longclaw's hilt. I'll reach Robb in 3 days by footpaths. You take the survivors north, circle east of the neck. Grey Wind will know you survived once I reach camp. Ned hesitated, torn between sun and realm. At last he clasped Jon's shoulder. Then go, but take the gods with you. He pressed a leather pouch into Jon's palm, silver stags, a small vial of Maester's firemilk ointment, and a folded scrap of parchment bearing Ned's sigil. In case banners bar your way, they embraced, ash falling like gray snow around them. Ghost whined softly, as though sensing parting. Jon set off before dawn's pale wash, clad in soot-dark cloak, Ghost gliding silent at his side. Each step throbbed through bruises, yet his pulse sang iron. The wall's oath might be broken, new oaths forged, but some vows, to blood, to pack, grew stronger with every test. He cut through ravines, skirted bracken outposts, forded chill rivers waist-deep. Ghost hunted rabbits when hunger stabbed. On the second night, while camped beneath an overturned cart for shelter, Jon dreamed of white ravens winging over snowy fields, their cries heralding winter's true face. He woke sweating though frost rimed his beard. The third day dusk found him crouched upon a ridge overlooking Robb's temporary entrenchment along Maidenpool Road. Fires glimmered like jeweled necklaces across swales. No alarm horns blared. Good betrayal unseen yet. He descended quietly, slipping between pickets by flashing Ned's parchment when challenged. Within the main ring, he located Robb's command tent. Grey Wind materialized from shadows, sniffed Ghost, then licked Jon's smoke-stiff coat with greeting. Inside, Robb, Caitlin, and Roose pored over fresh scouts' reports. Jon burst in. Ambush. Bolton riders with Bracken. Father escaped but rides north. Proof. Words sprayed, breath ragged. He handed Robb the pouch, told of burning pines, traitor sigils. Robb's face reddened. Caitlin gasped. Roose Bolton lifted brow. Strange tale, he murmured. My captains know nothing of rogue riders. Perhaps brigands donned flayed-man cloaks to sow discord. Jon's hand dropped to hilt. They hailed Bolton orders. Robb's knuckles whitened on the map. If half true, we address this now. He summoned guards, ordered Bolton's captains brought for questioning, and dispatched messengers to secure sentries. Roose's expression stayed unreadable. As night deepened, interrogation revealed 2 captains missing from roll, Ser Hother of the Hornwood and Ser Lannis Faring, both Bolton oathmen. Under torchlight, a groom confessed seeing them ride out secret 4 nights prior with 200 men, citing courier duty. Robb's fury chilled to hard resolve. He placed Roose under guarded watch until truth could be untangled. Bolton yielded gracefully, but those pale eyes glittered with something between amusement and menace. Jon collapsed near dawn, exhaustion crushing him. Yet sleep brought no peace, visions of red leaves dripping blood, of swords forging chains, of a dire wolf panting on snow while icy shadows advanced. He woke to horns crying alarm. Tywin's host marched sooner than scouts predicted, banners cresting hills southward like a tide of gold and red. Jon rolled to his feet, limbs leaden yet fierce. War drums answered, the north stirring. Robb strode past, armor gleaming in sunrise. He paused to clasp Jon's forearm. You saved our flank. Whatever oaths once bound you, I name you shield brother now. Stand with me. Jon drew Longclaw, lifting the Valyrian steel to catch morning light. To the last beat, he pledged. Trumpets sounded. Earth shook. Ghost howled, and Grey Wind answered. The tide of battle surged toward them. Lion against wolf, steel against honor's edge. As Jon Snow strode to meet it, he felt no more chains, only the weight of chosen duty, and beyond the din, like a heartbeat of the world itself, the promise of Winterfell calling him home once the storm lay broken. The lions came in gilded columns as sunlight shattered over their helms, a river of bronze and crimson that seemed to flow endlessly down the far ridges into the mist-stained lowlands. At their head rode Ser Kevan Lannister, mail bright as a new-minted coin, Tywin's banner of the Golden Lion rippling behind him. But the old lion himself kept farther back, a shadow of steel and calculation hidden amid a knot of household knights. Across the valley, the northern host stood upon 3 gentle rises, cloaks snapping like torn raven wings in the hard autumn wind. Above them whipped the dire wolf of Stark, a gray beast on white, and beside it, new painted yet already battle-stained, the rough sun disk of the free mountain clans. Drums beat in the hollow between, thunder answering thunder, until even the crows that circled for carrion could scarce hear their own raucous cries. Jon Snow stood astride Storm near the center rise, Longclaw resting naked across his thigh. The sword's dark ripples drank the morning glare like still water. To his left loomed the stone crow shield wall, warriors with scar-inked faces and iron-ring eyes, humming low songs of blood. To his right stood Karstark's spearmen under a sable sunburst, white cloaks flaring at the throat. Across the neat line of wooden stakes and shallow trenches, the land sloped gently to the valley floor. A swath of trampled rye turned to mud beneath countless hooves. There the Lannisters had halted, pausing, perhaps, to marvel that wolves and savages dared meet them in open field. Robb's war horn sounded, one deep note that slid along the spine like ice water. Archers advanced, planting tall oaken stakes, knocking gray goose shafts. Some 200 yards beyond, Lannister crossbowmen shuffled into line, their quarrels glinting like a school of tiny fish in morning light. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Jon felt every pulse of his heart, felt Storm's muscles twitching under him, felt Ghost's breath huff against his knee where the dire wolf lurked beside the stirrup, red eyes unblinking. A hush broader than sky settled over the field. Then horns again, 2 from the lion's side, answer sharp and arrogant, and forward loped the vanguard of Ser Adam Marbrand, 500 heavy horse. Crimson cloaks snapped, lances lowered, the points catching sun so they seemed tipped in fire. Behind them thundered the first infantry blocks, serried ranks of spears under square soldiers' shields crested gold. Robb answered with the Grachan's roar. The north center surged, pikes bristling beneath the ragged maw of Umber's giant. Jon spurred Storm 3 lengths to anchor the right horn where the clans crouched. The earth shook at 500 paces, at 4, at 3. Dust rose in gloaming sheets. War cries burst like shattering glass. Then came the iron kiss. Arrows tearing air, quarrels hissing, men screaming, wood cracking. The Lannister horse crashed into stakes cunningly hidden by tussocks. Beasts writhed, impaled. Riders vaulted, some scrambling to feet only to be cut down by wolves' axes. But the charge did not break. The second line swerved, angling toward a gap where Karstark's spears had stepped forward too far in zeal. Jon saw it and felt the battlefield tilt. He raised Longclaw and shouted. A raw sound whipped away by wind, and the clans answered, surging sideways into the breach. Stone crow shields locked with Karstark oaken boards, presenting a sudden wall where none had been. The first Lannister wedge struck it like a smith's hammer, splinters flying. Jon met a knight fresh from the saddle, plate fluted like the petals of some Reach Lord's rose. His morning star whirled, but Jon's blade darted under, slitting mail at the armpit. The knight screamed, crashing backward into the press. Ghost darted among thrashing hooves to hamstring a destrier. The beast toppled with a squeal, pinning its rider. Beside Jon, a stone crow woman, bare arms banded with soot tattoo coils, jammed her hooked axe through a visor slit. Scarlet sprayed her cheeks. She laughed, teeth bloody, and wrenched free to seek another throat. Yet for each foe felled, 2 more rose. Kevan Lannister fed fresh companies into the grinder with the remorseless grit of a miller adding grain. Flags of House Clegane appeared, black dogs on yellow, grim and huge beneath their mastiff helms. The mere sight of them stirred whispers even among the mountain men. Dog heads, butcher knights. Jon hewed through a mailed shoulder, pivoted, nearly slipped on the gore-slick ground. Over the din, he heard the second line of Karstark's falter. A banner toppled, its pole severed. A trumpet shrilled 3 times behind, Robb's signal. The flanks must hold 2 more minutes until the center sprung its trap. Jon bellowed at the nearest warrior, a lanky Karstark boy, helm askew. Line tight. He shoved him back into rank, taking the front himself. A mace clanged off his gorget, numbing neck and shoulder. He answered with a low thrust between greave and cuisse, a soft spot, then ripped upward through groin. Gilded mail split like wet parchment. Pain stabbed his left forearm. A quarrel had grazed, tearing leather. He ignored it, turning to slash at a banner-bearer's knee. Somewhere distant, the great Jon screamed an oath to the first men. Lady Mormont's bear roar answered. The field rang with the clamor of ancient northern blood. Jon could taste iron on the wind. Not his own, yet soon enough. Then came the answering cry. A horn from the ridge behind Lannister lines, shrill as a hunting hawk. Jon risked a glance. Over the crest poured riders in black wool and fur, shields painted with white tree and red leaves. The clans of the northern interior, late to muster but wild to close the gap. At their head thundered Meage Mormont astride a massive dun horse, axe high, and sliding through the new wedge like a silver serpent came a lean company under Ser Brynden Tully. The Blackfish, outriders swift as fish in a river's rush. Tywin's right flank staggered beneath this sudden tide. Jon felt the field shift. Not a tilt this time, but a surge, as if the ground itself turned to water under Lannister feet. The Karstarks rallied, howling stark, until the name shook air. Jon drove forward, his men at his heels. Ghost vanished in the smoke and screams, then leapt out of nowhere, dragging a spearman down in a blossom of crimson. Suddenly the press parted. There before him loomed Ser Davin Lannister, his hair a tarnished copper under dented helm, shield emblazoned with the roaring lion. He sat tall on a chestnut courser, short sword lifted. His eyes found Jon's black-on-gray cloak, Night's Watch colors still visible beneath northern pin, though much torn. Oathbreaker, he called above noise. The wall wants your head. Jon met his gaze without blinking. Come take it. They clashed. Davin's blade swung heavy, meant to batter, while Jon's Valyrian steel flickered quick. Metal rang like chimes. A third strike hacked Jon's sleeve, near severing strap. He twisted, plunged point first under Davin's pauldron. The steel slid through layers easy as cloth. Davin's breath left him in a single fogging gasp, surprise bright in his eyes. He sagged. Jon shoved the body sideways, freeing the blade. He barely turned in time to catch a mace. Descending, one of the Doghead Clegane men. The blow numbed his wrist, but Longclaw held. Ghost slammed the warrior's knee. Jon pivoted, severing the mace hand at the wrist, then the throat. Blood fountained black. A great roar cascaded behind. Robb's center had advanced, the Umber Giant's standard leading a wedge that split the lion host down the spine. Jon felt the thunder of thousands of boots march. Lannister arrows faltered, archers losing heart as their main spear line crumbled. Survival became pursuit. Wolves and mountain men pressed hard. Dust and smoke cloaked the valley as gold standards fell. Tywin's war drums died, replaced by retreat horns, thin, desperate. A handful of knights formed rearguard squares to cover withdrawal across an icy brook, but Umber berserkers crashed into them howling. Jon lost count of kills. His arms ached. His mouth tasted smoke. When the sun reached zenith at last, the field was theirs. A graveyard of banners, bodies, and twisted steel. Across the torn earth, Robb Stark rode gray wind up the ridge, helm off, hair dark with sweat and dust. Cheers boiled up around him, his name, his new forged title, but he raised no sword in salute. Instead, his eyes scoured the carnage, weighing cost. Jon met him near a toppled chariot. Blood streaked Robb's cheek, not his own. They clasped arms. "You live?" Robb murmured, voice hoarse. "I saw your line bend. I thought, bends are not breaks," Jon said. The Karstarks held. The clans held. He glanced about. "Where is Roose?" Robb's expression shuddered. His reserve never joined the fray. He claims his flank was threatened by a feint he dared not expose. The king spat dust. He rides now among the prisoners, seeking those who might ransom. We will speak later. John wiped blade on a lionskin cloak, sheathed it. Father reached White Harbor yet? If the gods are gentle, Robb exhaled. I would send riders north, but all roads crawl with lions or broken cells words. We hold them here first. They roamed the field then, seeing to wounded. John's arm throbbed. A maester stitched while he gave water to a dying Stone Crow youth, minutes ago laughing in the shield wall. The boy grasped John's wrist with bloody fingers. The wolf sky, he whispered. Remember our bargain. Then his eyes clouded and he sagged. John closed them. Smoke coiled off blackened wagons. Carrion birds already circled. War had no clean victories. Night shrouded the butchered valley in a damp blanket. Fires burned low as survivors huddled around cauldrons, silent but for the crack of marrow bones and the soft prayers of the wounded. In the king's pavilion, Robb convened council again. Lanterns gleamed off fresh-polished mail. The tent smelled of pitch, sweat, and blood-stained linen. Maester Carrick poured wine laced with poppy, even for the king, but few drank deep. Ser Brynden Tully presented counts. 5,000 northern dead, near 10,000 Lannister fallen or captured. Kevan Lannister had been taken, though wounded, and rumors said Ser Tyrion too. Tywin, however, had slipped away with a shrunk but still fierce core of veterans, retreating toward Harrenhal. Robb paced. We must pursue before he regroups. Great John thundered assent. Galbart Glover urged caution. Supply lines thinning, winter scents in the wind. Lady Mormont spat. Winter is our home. Horses could feed on harvested straw stored at villages along the Trident. Men could butcher lions if need be. Roose Bolton entered late, cloak immaculate despite battle. He bowed. John watched him 4 paces away, meeting pale eyes that reflected lamplight like those of a cat. My scouts report Tywin rides for the Duskendale Road, Bolton said. If we slip east by moonrise, we could sever his path, drive him toward the sea where Stannis might net him. Robb's brow furrowed. You counsel aiding Stannis now? 2 days past you urged caution. Prudence remains, Roose murmured. But a cornered lion is more dangerous than 2 half-starved moles. Crush one threat fully before chasing another. John interjected, voice low. Your riders ambushed my escort days ago. You blame deserters. How many deserters carry your sigil? Roose's smile was thin. A mystery, but war spawns rogues. I hunt them myself. Robb's eyes flicked between men. Tension coiled like a drawn bowstring. At last Robb dismissed council, charging Ser Brynden to dissect Bolton's report. Lords filed out. Bolton lingered a heartbeat before John. Oaths may bind men, bastard of Winterfell, he said softly. But fear weds their souls. Break one, the other phrase. Then he was gone. Later, by a lonely campfire, John leaned against a wagon wheel, arm bound, watching sparks climb to the dark. Ghost dozed at his feet, tail twitching. Across the ashes Theon Greyjoy sauntered up, face flush with victory wine. Black brother no more, Theon said, tipping a skin. You wear the smell of battle well. John frowned. We won a field. The war still roars. Then roar louder. Theon sprawled on a crate. Robb means to chase Tywin. Good. Let the wolf snap. He took a swig, wiped lips. I ride for Pike soon, summon Father's fleet. The North will need salt claws. John studied him. Will they come for oaths or for spoils? Theon grinned. For reaving, of course. But reaving against lions is easier coin than against peaceable fisherfolk. Aeon plus Velen, as we say, iron for iron. He leaned forward conspiratorial, voice soft. Careful of Bolton. Flaying men is his house's way. I know, John said. He glanced at the flicker of the flames. Have a care yourself. Salt or snow, we bleed the same. Theon laughed. Starks bleed different. Honor in the blood, so they say. His smile faded, replaced by something old and wary. Don't let Robb forget Theon Greyjoy bled today too. Jon nodded. I will not. The next dawn they found themselves mired by flood. Night rains had turned the Trident's lesser streams into sudden torrents. Bridges washed out, roads drowned under gray water. Tywin's retreat slowed as well, but so did pursuit. Robb sent outrider companies across makeshift fords. Jon led one, Stone Crow scouts swimming horses through cold current to a path-hugging forest ridges. 2 days they tracked Lion Prince, always just over the next rise. On the third dawn they spied banners caught in swaying pines. Tywin's rearguard camped at a mill hamlet beside a half-collapsed stone bridge. Robb planned a pre-dawn assault, but Jon begged for 1 hour to attempt another path. The forest crowned the hamlet to the east with a shallow escarpment. Jon guided 100 clansmen and 50 Karstark archers along animal trails, scaling mossy slabs. At first light, they crouched atop the cliff edge, staring down at Lannister tents scattered along the stream banks. Milk fog kissed grass. Fires burned low, guard lines lax. Jon signaled. Notch arrows each target a sentry. The bowstrings thumbed as one. 30 hearts ended in silence. Then they were over the lip, sliding down narrow goat tracks, Ghost bounding ahead. Within the minute, they cut into the camp center, axes and swords sowing panic before horns sounded. By the time Tywin's main host roused half a mile distant, Jon's raiding knot had torch supplies, toppled a siege tower, slain 200 men, and vanished north with prisoners. That night Robb praised Jon before the host, naming him Snow Wolf of the Ridge. Cheers rang, but Jon's eyes sought only one face, Catelyn's. She watched with mingled pride and worry, lips pursed. Honor and dread warred in her. After the cheers, Robb dragged Jon into his map tent. Tywin veers west now, toward Harrenhal as Bolton's scouts said. I pursue. Yet every mile we ride farther from Winterfell. I need eyes north of the neck now. Eyes I trust. He gripped Jon's shoulders. Ride home, finally, with the tale of our victory. Guard the castles. If Bolton betrays again, Winterfell must stand. Jon felt the pull of 2 worlds yet again. The taste of battle's thunder still rang in bones, but Winterfell's name echoed deeper. He bowed. I will leave with first light. They made the White Knife crossing in 3 days of hard riding, a vanguard of 15. Jon, Ghost, 6 stone crows under ragged banners, a dozen Karstarks eager to see hearths. Snow flurried the last morning, whispering of early winter. On the 4th dawn, gray towers of White Harbor loomed. Tall walls, griffin banners of House Manderly hanging limp. The guards gaped when Jon announced himself, but the gates yawned open swiftly enough. Tales of Robb's triumph already bearing wings. Lord Wyman Manderly greeted them in the central yard, greatcoat bulging over broad belly. Lord Snow, he boomed, then blushed at the title. Or shall we call you Captain of the Wolf Guard? Word travels faster than ravens when men bring trophies. He gestured to the lion shields strapped on pack mules. Jon bowed. I seek fresh horses, grain, and a skiff upriver, and a raven perch for a message to Robb, King Robb. All at once and more. Wyman winked. Your father reached us 2 days past, weary but hale. He sails for Barrowton to assemble the Barrows clans. Will you follow? Relief flooded Jon, but duty twined. As soon as boats are ready. While provisions were gathered, Jon walked White Harbor's docks. Fisherwomen sold cod off slippery planks. Children chased Ghost, laughing until mothers whisked them away. Newsboys shouted updates. Young wolf trounces lions. Bells rang at the 7-sided sept in thanksgiving. Yet in tavern corners men whispered of darker tidings. Iron-borne longships sighted off the stony shore. A red comet seen at dawn trailing blood across sky. Wildling bands massing beyond the wall under a king of their own. Jon sent ravens with all such rumors, even the comet. Then boarded a stout river galley under oar. As White Harbor dwindled, Ghost stood prow-side, letting spray streak his muzzle. They followed the White Knife through pine-forested banks. Twice they spotted riders shadowing them along ridges. Bolton colors? Hard to tell. Jon ordered archers ready, but no quarrel flew. At Barrow Tun he found Ned Stark amid half-raised tents and scraping horns. The Lord wore simple wool, no armor. Yet the men gathered round him as around a hearth. When Ned saw Jon disembark, his face eased like frost under sun. "News?" he asked. "Victory at Brant's Valley," Jon reported. "Tywin in flight. The king presses. Winter beckons." Ned nodded, eyes bright with grim pride. That night they spoke round a private fire. Ned confessed nightmares of King's Landing yet lingering. Iron bars, the stink of wet stone. But hope warmed him when ravens carried Robb's rise. Jon spoke of Bolton's shadow. Ned's jaw set. "We must watch the dread fort. Ill blood long dormant has curdled there." At dawn Ned convened a council of Barrow lords. Jon observed, learning how old loyalties braided in strange knots. The dusty Barrow kings of First Men lore, the Norrie and Wool of the High Barrows, the Dustons bitter since Brandon Stark's death. Yet Ned spoke plain, offered fealty to their ancient ancestries, promised fair tribute. Most bent knee with relief, weary of southern coin taxes. Lady Barbary Duston alone demurred, eyes ice-bright. But even she granted passage for Stark levies. A fortnight later, their column crested the ridge above the Kingsroad crossroads where Last River meets the Kingsroad Fork. From their Winterfell lay 3 days' ride. Jon's heart hammered when gray walls rose over frost-shagged fields. Twin towers flanking the gatehouse, smoke curling from Meadhall chimneys. Ravens burst from the broken tower, startled at the returning host. The air smelled of leaf mold and distant snow. Home. Maester Luwin, cheeks tear-wet, greeted them on the drawbridge. Bran sat on a carved wheeled chair of white weirwood beside him, cloak fur-lined, eyes solemn and older than his 13 years. Rickon stood half-hidden behind Shaggydog's shaggy flank. Osha the wildling hovered wary. When Bran saw Jon he smiled, and somehow the weight on Jon's shoulders loosened. Inside the great hall, fires roared. Ned embraced sons, kissed Catelyn's forehead where worry lines had carved new channels. But joy was fleeting. Luwin presented ravens. Theon's father, Balon Greyjoy, had sent word of independence. The Ironborn now crowned him king of salt and rock. His fleet raided the stony shore, Deepwood Motte under siege. Worse, Theon himself sailed among them, banner of the Kraken. Silence crashed heavier than any bell. Catelyn closed eyes in pain. Ned muttered, "The boy I raised would not." Bran's voice floated calm. "Yet he did, father. Dreams show krakens in the snow." Jon clenched fists. "Greyjoy picked our moment of war. We answer."
Ned nodded slowly.
"We must. Yet the North strength rides south with Robb. Here we have but garrison forces, broken by war's needs." Jon stepped forward. "Let me gather the mountain clans who rode home with us, the Barrow men, the Cerwyn levies. I will sail from White Harbor, strike Pike at its heart, free Theon of his false crown or end him." Catelyn stiffened. Ned studied Jon, lines deepening. "Valyrian steel does not float, and Iron Islands break even seasoned captains. I have no rank the realm recognizes," Jon said. "So let me carry the risks others cannot. If I fall, Robb lose no lord. But if I prevail, the Kraken breaks." Bran wheeled closer, eyes shining with strange light. "The crow in my dreams said a wolf must walk the waves." Jon knelt before him. "Then let the wolf walk." He glanced up at Ned. "Father, trust me." Ned's gaze softened. "Your mother might have known the sea better than I," he whispered, so low only Jon heard. He placed a hand on Jon's head, like night-making. "Go then, but take stout men and stouter ships." That very night Cold Hands, a coated courier from the Wall, arrived at Winterfell. His message: Lord Commander Mormont had marched north of the Wall with 500 rangers, vanished beyond the Frostfangs. White Walkers rumored. A new king beyond the Wall, Mance Rayder, rallying tens of thousands. The Watch needed aid. And in the margins, a personal scrawl by Sam Tarly: "Jon, they forgive. Come home if you can." Jon stood beneath the heart tree that dawn, wind moaning through red leaves, and felt the cold arms of time closing. Seas to the west, ice demons to the north, lions to the south, krakens and traitors coiling anywhere honor frayed. He thought of vows broken and reforged, of chains smelted into swords, of ghosts and gods. Ghosts sat before him, muzzle flecked with newly fallen snow. The direwolf's red eyes reflected the coiling future. Jon touched the weeping face carved in ancient bark. Old gods, new gods, grant me sight clear, arm strong, heart steady, for wolves need all three. Somewhere distant, a horn blew once, twice. The call to saddle at dawn. Jon rose and turned toward the stable, where journeys end, a swift black dappled mare, stamped impatient. Around her milled stone crows humming war hymns, Karstark bowmen sharpening broadheads, Manderly sailors coiling ropes. Above the yard a raven wheeled, cawing a harsh note that sounded half like a warning, half like a dare. He swung into the saddle. The gates of Winterfell creaked open. Snowflakes drifted across the threshold like silent counsel. Jon Snow, once a crow in black, now a wolf in gray, nudged the mare forward. By his side padded Ghost, white as memory, red eyes burning. Behind him rolled drums, soft at first, then growing, until the very stones seemed to pulse in time. The beat of northern blood marching seaward. Ahead lay salt winds, kraken coils, iron men and iron oaths. Behind lay hearthfires that must never dim. Between them rode Jon, forged in broken vows, bound now to no throne but to the north itself, and to the long night gathering beyond every horizon. The sky remained leaden, promising snow. The river of fate rolled dark, and somewhere, beyond both sea and snow, a dagger of ice was being shaped against the heart of men. Jon lowered his head to the wind. Whatever storms rose, he would meet them blade bright, wolf strong, and unbowed.